happy late Valentine's Day. I'm actually celebrating today because I was working all day Valentine's Day. I did do a little stream on Valentine's Day. We ended up having just a giant group therapy session. It was really fun. Because it's Valentine's Day, I thought I would do a dating story because I know those are quite popular. I normally do dating stories in Japan. I think up until now I've only done dating stories in Japan, so I thought today I'd do something a little bit different and talk about a British dating story. I think this one might actually be the wildest one of them all, which is pretty funny. And I want to make it clear that I really don't discriminate when it comes to like dating. I honestly believe that every country is as bad as each other. It's just like there's different flavors of bad. Okay, so let's jump straight in. Before I moved to Japan, I was in university and I was in quite a long-term relationship that was pretty good. I think we were together for like 5 years, but we broke up, and then I was single for a while, and then I knew that I was going to be moving to Japan, so I didn't want to get into something that was super serious. There was a guy in my class who was into the same kind of stuff as me. He was like quite alternative and he liked Japanese music and anime and stuff like that, so it seemed like we vibed pretty well. He was pretty interesting. He didn't talk a whole lot. He was pretty mysterious, but he was also very liked amongst all of our friends. Like, he was he had a very nice personality. He was quite charismatic and charming, so it was easy to see why so many people liked him. So yeah, we started dating, and it's kind of just like, I don't know, dating anyone when you're in university. Like, we'd see each other in class and then sometimes go to each other's house. His mom was from Papua New Guinea, so he was like half Papuan. So yeah, that was interesting. He didn't really talk about it that much, and I used to go around his house sometimes, and I remember his mom didn't like me very much. That was kind of weird. Like, I'm not sure if it was just me or if she was just kind of like, I don't know, but I got the vibe she didn't really like me, and that was fine, because like, honestly, I knew that this relationship wasn't gonna last long anyway, so we were just like hanging out, vibing, and having a good time. Honestly, throughout the relationship part, honestly, nothing weird kind of happened. He didn't really talk that much, and there wasn't really any glaring red flags. We shared a lot of the same friends. It was just kind of like, it wasn't like super romantic, and it wasn't really going anywhere. It was kind of just like, I don't know, like a placeholder relationship for the time being. And I think I was a university student, so I was kind of just more focused on my studies anyway. So luckily for me, it wasn't taking up that much headspace or like of my time. And I remember it was kind of funny at that time. I think I made a story about my sister, but we would argue all the time, and she would always argue and tell me that he was ugly, and I was like, he's not ugly. It was so funny. But looking back, I guess he was a little bit ugly. But yeah, I did like him quite a lot. Like, it wasn't like, I don't know if it was like love or anything, but at that time it was like, it was nice, and like at that time he didn't really do anything weird, so it was kind of, yeah, it was kind of chill. But then obviously when it came to the end of our degree, I decided that I wanted to move to Japan, and so like we had to have that kind of awkward conversation. My degree, I did it in like computer science, game design and animation, so it was like me and a bunch of guys in my class, so like it was already kind of like a weird dynamic. And I remember one of the last times I saw him was, we used to sometimes babysit his sister's kids, these 2 little girls, and then one of the last times I saw him was at his sister's wedding, which was really nice, and I got to wear a nice dress and I went to their wedding, and yeah, it was a really nice time. And then it was really awkward because people are like, oh, how's your relationship gonna work if you're moving to Japan? And I'm like, I don't know, honestly. Like, at that time I was like, maybe we can try to do like a long distance thing, but I think we both knew deep down that we didn't really like each other that much, so it just probably wasn't gonna work. So yeah, after that I did end up moving to Japan, and we stayed like long distance for a bit, and I think it was super funny because I think after like a month, or not even a month, I think it was like a couple of weeks, he was like, I can't do long distance anymore, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, and we kind of like mutually agreed to break up. It wasn't really that sad or anything, it was just like, yeah, me too. I think it was kind of funny though, like he didn't even last like 2 weeks, which is hilarious. And yeah, so after that we would sometimes talk online, but we didn't really talk a whole lot, honestly. and he kind of just faded from my mind. And that was like the most normal part of this whole thing. Like the relationship part seemed very, very normal. It was just honestly wholly and completely uneventful. Like, I don't really remember anything happening apart from we used to just go to Nando's and eat chicken sometimes. Then the really incredibly messed up thing that happened was way after that. I think it ended up being a few years after that. I think it was like 2 or 3 years after I moved to Japan, my dad ended up suddenly passing away. And so like I had to go back to England, and so when I was there I mailed everyone saying that I was gonna go back to England. He didn't read my message, and honestly I was too busy to care about this random guy, so I didn't push it further. But yeah, he didn't read my message. And so like we went back, and I saw my friends, I saw my family, I did my dad's funeral. And I was like, oh, it's kind of sad I didn't get to see him, but like whatever. I saw one of my long-time ex-boyfriend, which was much better. So yeah, I was like, whatever. So then I came back to Japan, and then after a while he did mail me, and he was like, oh, sorry, I was busy, I didn't see your message. And he said that he was gonna come to Tokyo and he wanted to meet up. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not, we can do that. And then I told my mom, and my mom started to panic. She said she didn't want to tell me this because honestly I didn't see this guy anymore, but apparently after my dad died, this fucking guy, I'm going to call him Greg because I hate that name. Greg was going to my house to check on my mom. And I heard that he did this a couple of times. I thought it was really, really sweet of him because my family did like him a lot. So he was going to check on my family, and apparently my mom said 2 or 3 times when he did this, she would walk in the room to give him a cup of tea or something, and his dick was out. This fucking guy was exposing himself to my mom, to my elderly mother. I think she was like 69 or 70 at that time. This guy, for some fucking reason, was going to my house and getting his dick out in front of my mom. And I was just like, honestly, I didn't believe it at that time because this guy is known for being such like a nice guy or whatever. I asked my sister, who is also bonkers, and she confirmed he did it to her one time. And like, if anything, that's kind of brave, because my sister, honest to God, like I made a video about her stabbing me. Like, if I was gonna get my dick out in front of anyone, it would not be her. Like, I don't know why he was doing this. I was so angry. And so I tried to think back at our relationship, and I tried to think of any red flags. And I did actually, now I think about it, when I moved to Japan, I remember he would sometimes we would Skype, and he would like Skype call me and I would answer it, and he would just be completely naked, like in his room. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it seemed like he couldn't notice that the camera was on. Like, I guess he pretended that he didn't notice, and he was just there like naked or whatever. And I was like, whatever, so I just turned it off. And I honestly just completely forgot about it. But then I asked a mutual friend of ours, and apparently he did it to her too. So it seemed like this fucking guy, who I dated for like a few months, has a kink, I guess, for women seeing his dick without consent, which is honestly terrifying because everyone I know and like all our friends, we really, really didn't know he was that kind of guy. So this was honestly just, I don't know, it's just so left field. Like, I was just angry. I've never been so angry in my life. I just saw like red. Everything just went red. I was so angry. I don't really get angry so much if people do stuff to me, but when it's like your family, like my elderly mother who was just widowed, this guy saw this as an opportunity. So I could not. I am so mad. And then I remembered that like he has 2 nieces and we used to babysit them. So I mailed his sister and I told her what he had done. And she read the message and I think she blocked me. So I feel like maybe he got to her first. Yeah, I did something I'm not really proud of. He took care of his elderly father. And because he did something to my mom, I mailed him on Facebook and I said, if I ever catch you near my family or my family's house again, I will pay the gangs that live down my street to cut off your dad's head and throw it into the estuary. And he read the message and he didn't reply. And he didn't even block me or anything. He just didn't reply. So yeah, I was just so, I don't know, like after that it really scared me. Like honestly, I didn't really want to be around men after that for a while. Honestly, it was just, the whole thing was gross because I thought that this was a really good person, and everyone I knew thought this was a good person, and this ended up being someone that was clearly like, something's wrong with you if you have to do that. Another thing is, I remember we took a trip to Tokyo, and I remember he was out by himself and I was in the hotel room, and he came back and he said that like he was like sheet white, and he said that the police had stopped him in like some park, and they checked him, his passport and all this stuff, and they were really interrogating him, and it was really scary, blah 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 blah. I know that like foreigners get stopped a lot, but I didn't understand why he was so scared. And I'm like, now I look back on it, I'm like, that day, was he like getting his dick out like in like public, and maybe the police got, like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't want to know. But it was like really honestly eye-opening to me that even if you're dating someone for a long time, I mean, we weren't dating for like an incredibly long time, but you honestly don't know people. Like, people could be hiding like the most wild, horrible, dark secret ever, and you just, you know, sometimes you just don't know. And then a while after, like I think it was like the year before last, so maybe like 5 years or 4 years after this happened, he emailed me, because I think in the end I just blocked him off of everything, because honestly this whole thing just, it triggers me seeing his face now. He sent me an email saying that he found my old student card from university. I guess I just left it at his house back in the day, and he's like, oh, look what I found, haha. I'm like, the last time we spoke, I threatened you. You got your penis out in front of my mother. Why would I want to speak to you? It's so bizarre. Like, honest to God, I just, like, it just baffles me why he would think I would ever want to speak to him again. And like, I wonder what will happen, because I know he's kind of like a weeb, so maybe he's, and I know like he has a girlfriend, and I'm sure she's a weeb too, so like they're gonna eventually come to Tokyo. I don't know what I would do if I saw him, honestly, because the whole thing just made me so mad. And it was just the most awkward conversation to ever have with my mother. And it was nice of her, because she was just more worried about me. She was like, oh, I'm just letting you know that he did this, so you know, like, be careful if you meet him, because clearly he's not well. And my mom was really, really sad too, because she really did like him, and it was just so disappointing. And yeah, so yeah, kind of like a sad story actually. Just the whole thing was disappointing. It's just, you know, whatever. And it did really just open my mind up to the possibility that people are not exactly what they seem, and I think it's kind of an important life lesson to have. But yeah, again, I just think the whole thing is really, really sad. So yeah, let me know what you think of this story. I didn't tell it sooner just because it's just so bizarre. It's just like, it just makes me feel like a little bit sick really telling it. It's not even like, it's not even funny, it's just like sad. But yeah, let me know what you think. I hope you haven't had any similar stories. I think I remembered this story because I was on the train yesterday and there was a guy like jacking himself off, so I was like, yeah, okay, it kind of like reminded me of the story, so maybe that's why I'm telling this story. So yeah, thank you for watching, and as always, please subscribe.